Ladies and gentlemen, you know what's funny? People say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. But I say, show me your group chat and I'll tell you your future. Because if your circle's last 5 messages are memes, gossip, and bro, I'm so tired, then congratulations, you've already predicted your next 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth hurts, but your circle shapes your destiny quietly, like background music. You don't even notice it, but it's controlling the rhythm of your life. I used to hang out with people who thought working hard was a disease. If you started studying, they'd say, bro, relax, life is short. If you said you wanted to save money, they'd say, what's the point? We'll all die anyway. These people could find negativity in a sunrise. And the funny part, they weren't bad people. They were just comfortable. Comfortable being average, comfortable complaining, comfortable doing nothing. And you sit there long enough, you start catching their habits like a cold. Because habits are contagious. You hang around 5 complainers, you become the 6th. You hang around 5 workers, you start waking up early without even realizing it. You don't decide to change, you absorb it. I remember one of my friends. We used to joke that his alarm clock was useless because no matter what time it rang, he'd still wake up at noon. And guess what? Slowly I started waking up later too. Not because I wanted to, but because that was normal in my group. That's the dangerous thing. When the wrong habits become normal. When being broke becomes funny. When procrastination becomes personality. When laziness becomes lifestyle. Then one day, I met a guy totally different. No fancy clothes, no big talk, just focused. We'd meet, and instead of gossip, he'd talk about goals, books, new ideas, side hustles. At first I thought, bro, chill. Why are you so serious all the time? But after a few weeks, I started noticing something weird. I couldn't go back to my old circle. Suddenly, their jokes didn't feel funny anymore. Their conversations felt small, and I realized that's growth. When you stop laughing at the things that used to waste your time, look around you. If your circle celebrates your excuses more than your progress, you're not in a circle, you're in a cage. Your friends can either be your elevator or your anchor. And most people don't even know which one they're holding on to. You ever see those groups where one person says, let's start something, and the rest go, you will see. That's how dreams die. Not from failure, but from slow discouragement. A small ew every day until you stop trying. I'm not saying you need to cut everyone off. I'm saying upgrade the conversations. If your group chat never talks about goals, money, growth, or learning, then maybe it's time to start a new one. Because you don't need to find smarter friends. You just need to find friends who want to get smarter. You know, I once realized something crazy. People don't change you directly. They just normalize things around you. If your circle spends every weekend partying, it becomes normal. If they spend it reading, working, learning, that becomes normal too. The only difference is what your group calls fun. And that's dangerous because your normal decides your next 10 years. I had a friend once who said, bro, money isn't everything. And I said, yeah, but being broke isn't everything either. He used to make fun of people saving money, called them misers. Meanwhile, his version of financial planning was hoping for discounts. It's funny we say we want success, but we hang around people allergic to effort. We want a billionaire mindset, but we spend 4 hours a day talking to people who don't even believe it's possible. That's like wanting to lose weight while living in a donut shop. You see, success doesn't come from motivation, it comes from environment. Put a motivated person in a lazy group and he'll slow down. Put a lazy person in a focused group and he'll start changing. The circle wins every time. I once heard a story about 2 childhood friends. One became a millionaire, the other stayed stuck. When they met years later, the successful one said, we both had dreams. The only difference is I stayed around people who believed theirs. That hit me hard. Because sometimes your dream doesn't fail. It just suffocates in the wrong company. You ever notice how your energy changes depending on who you talk to? There's that one friend, you talk for 10 minutes and you're ready to conquer the world. Then there's the other. 10 minutes with them and you need a nap. Same time, different result. That's not coincidence. That's energy transfer. Even your language changes. Start hanging out with people who complain a lot. You'll start saying, it's not my fault more. Hang with people who take responsibility. You'll start saying, I'll fix it. It's that subtle shift that decides your success. And you know what's funny? Sometimes you think you're strong enough to stay the same no matter what. But nobody is immune to energy. Even the sun looks smaller when surrounded by clouds. So ladies and gentlemen, if you ever feel like your life is stuck, don't just ask, what am I doing wrong? Ask, who am I doing it with? Because maybe the problem isn't your dream, It's your group chat. You know what's funny? Most people don't realize they're becoming their circle until it's too late. You start talking like them, joking like them, even dreaming like them. You think you're being yourself, but actually, you're becoming a remix of your 5 closest people. One day you say, I want to start a business. Your circle laughs. Haha, bro, you can't even wake up on time. You laugh with them, but a small part of your dream dies right there. That's how powerful energy is. It doesn't kill you instantly. It just slowly steals your belief. And then, there's the opposite kind of circle. The one that scares you a little. You know the friend who's already achieving things. You meet them and start questioning your entire existence. They'll say, I just launched something new, and you're sitting there thinking, I just launched Netflix last night. But those are the friends that wake you up. They make you uncomfortable in the best way. Because being around people who are ahead of you doesn't make you small, it stretches you. They make you realize how much more you can do without even saying a word. I remember when one of my friends got serious about fitness. Every time we'd hang out, he'd order grilled chicken and water, and I'd be there with my burger and Coke, trying to look confident like, yeah bro, I'm bulking. But deep down, I knew I was just making excuses. After a few weeks, I started eating better, not because he forced me, but because I couldn't keep being the only lazy one in the room. That's the magic of a good circle. They don't change you by force, they change you by example. They make you level up naturally, without judgment, without pressure. And let's be honest, sometimes the people closest to us are not bad. They just don't have the same hunger. They're comfortable where they are, and that's okay. But if you want a different life, you can't keep matching their pace. It's like being in a car with friends going nowhere. They're laughing, music's playing, everyone's chill, but deep down you know this road doesn't lead to your dream. You can love them, laugh with them, but you gotta step out of the car when your stop comes. Because your future isn't built by love alone, it's built by alignment. The people you spend time with every day quietly become the architects of your destiny. They're either designing your future or destroying it without realizing. So ask yourself today, if I keep hanging with the same 5 people, where will I be 5 years from now? And if that picture doesn't excite you, maybe it's time to redraw it. You know, one of the hardest parts of growth isn't changing your habits, it's changing your circle. Because when you start improving, people don't clap first, they question you. They say, bro, you've changed. Of course I did. I was broke, lazy, and confused. What do you want me to stay? The brand ambassador of bad decisions. See, growth looks like betrayal to people who've stopped growing. They take it personally when you start doing better. You wake up early. Oh, now you think you're better than us? You stop gossiping? Oh, he's acting like a saint now. No, I'm just tired of repeating the same year over and over. And that's the trap. We keep shrinking ourselves just to fit into circles that no longer fit our vision. We laugh at jokes that don't make sense anymore, pretend to enjoy conversations that drain us just because we don't want to be that guy who changed. But listen carefully. Growth always looks lonely before it looks inspiring. When you start improving, people disappear. But that's not rejection, that's filtration. The wrong people will slowly fade away when the right version of you shows up. It's like leveling up in a game. You don't lose friends, you just move to a new map. And guess what? Not everyone bought the same upgrade. I had a friend once who got upset because I started saying no to random hangouts. He said, bro, you're always busy now. And I said, yeah, because I'm finally doing something with my time. You can't spend your whole life being available for people who aren't available for your growth. The right circle won't compete with you. They'll correct you. They'll say things like, bro, stop wasting time. Hey, you said you were going to start that thing. Why haven't you? They push you because they care, not because they're jealous. You ever notice the difference between fake support and real support? Fake support says, bro, that's cool. Real support says, bro, let's make it better. And listen, you don't have to find perfect people. Just find people who want progress more than comfort. People who talk about ideas, not just about others. People who make you feel tired of wasting time, not tired of trying. Because the truth is, your future is not waiting for luck, it's waiting for the right environment. And that environment starts with your circle. One real friend who pushes you forward is better than 10 who keep you comfortable. So don't be afraid when your old circle doesn't understand you anymore. They weren't supposed to. They were only meant for the version of you that wanted to fit in, not the one who wants to stand out. You know, people always ask, how do I change my life? And I always say, start by changing who you have lunch with. Because your future is basically a group project, and guess what? Not everyone's doing their part. You can't expect millionaire results when your team's main topic is, bro, did you see that meme? It's crazy. We plan vacations better than we plan our friend circle. We'll research hotels, flights, prices, but never once ask, is this person actually helping me grow? Let me give you an example. You ever tell your friend an idea and they immediately become your lawyer? Bro, it's risky. Bro, what if it doesn't work? Bro, what if people laugh? And I'm like, bro, what if it does work? You're scared of failing. I'm scared of staying the same. Meanwhile, you tell the same idea to a growth-minded person and they'll say, okay, what's the first step? How can I help? Same sentence, completely different energy. I once had two groups at the same time. Group A, every time we met, it was about movies, games, and food. Group B, every time we met, it was ideas, side hustles, investments, future plans. Guess which one made me feel alive? And guess which one made me feel like I was stuck in a loop? The funny part, when I started spending more time with Group B, Group A said, bro, you're acting different now. I said, exactly, that's the point. Because if you hang around people who do nothing for long enough, you start thinking nothing is an activity. And here's the thing. You don't have to cut everyone off, just change the ratio. Spend less time with people who drain you and more with those who challenge you. You can love your old friends, but you don't need to copy their lifestyle. It's like a phone charger. Some people recharge you, some people drain you faster than Instagram Reels at 2 a.m. And let's be honest, if you're always the one saying, let's do something productive, you're not in a circle, you're in a daycare. Ladies and gentlemen, your circle is the invisible hand that shapes your destiny. You don't even realize it, but every joke, every opinion, every piece of advice from your friends is quietly programming your future. If your group talks about people, you'll stay stuck with people. If your group talks about ideas, you'll build something. If your group talks about money, you'll learn to make it. And if your group talks about nothing, well, you'll master nothing perfectly. So choose carefully. Because 5 years from now, you'll either say, I made it with my friends, or I would have made it if I had better ones. Your circle decides which one that sentence becomes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe, my friends.